Hey, Father Taylor here on Friday, January 15th, and for a little eBlast update. Before I begin, I apologize for having too many competing plaids, but just wanted to go with a blue shirt today. It's just one of those days. Okay, so here's what you got coming up. I'm going to give you announcements, just a couple of quick announcements and a few subtext announcements. And then I'm going to talk to you about a spiritual practice, which I'm going to give you a preview of, and I'll tell you why I think it's helpful for you to hear about it at this time. So first of all, announcements. We are continuing to try to figure out and to take our resources and try to help you connect to us as together. I mean, for you and all of us, for you to connect with all of us as a church body. We have all really missed it. And this is the way we're created. God connects us. The analogies for church are really more than family, or a body. In a family, you can get a divorce or you can get kicked out, but in a body, hands and arms and feet, we're all connected. And so when we can't be connected this way, it makes it real hard for us, understandably. So here's what we got. Sunday, right now, 8:30, you can come and join us for morning prayer. There's a link for morning prayer on the website, and all you got to do is hit that link, 8:30, come in. I told you this last week, let's go over it again. If you just want to come and be a part, but maybe you didn't put on your Sunday best, you can just turn the video function off. You can go like this. You can go with a video like that. So I think that worked. Anyway, so if it didn't, but you can turn your video off. You can even just kind of, you're muted for most of it. And when it comes time for open prayers, you can stay muted. You don't have to come up with some prayer if you think that's kind of hard to do. Wish you'd practice it. The more you do it, the easier it becomes. But you can just participate. What are the benefits? You'll see some other church people. You'll have some interaction. You'll just feel more connected. It's a more interactive thing. It feels like you're in the lobby of church and people are just with you. So I commend that to you, 8:30 on Sunday mornings. Just hit a link, you'll show up. I'm the gatekeeper. I got a little button here that I let people in. That's all you got to do, piece of cake. 9:45, you have a regular service. So we have a regular Sunday coming up. Now here's the sub announcements. This Saturday is a continuation of some stuff which has been going on. There's a group of people who have gotten together with some very creative ideas for ways to engage during the days of Lent, which are the 40 days of Lent are almost coming up. We're just a few weeks away. And so there are some great ideas. We're doing them on in ways. There's different kinds of ideas, and there's different ways for you to engage. If you have a crazy schedule and you need a more, shall you say, a schedule where you can schedule in when you do your meetings, we're going to have ways that you can do that. We have ways that we're going to use existing apps on the internet. We're reviewing them and putting them together so that you can do those on your own, and then you can jump into a group meeting just to kind of see how we're doing and kind of check in. We have some things with music, which will come up in the evening. So you can sit back, you can be a part of a prayer. It'll have like the same music as evening prayer, like we call it here, evensong. So we're going to have elements of music. So you can have a time of reflective worship, which more and more is something we're really needing in terms of like how the circumstances of the world have affected us. Anyway, more about that later. So Saturday, we're going over a bunch of stuff, and I hope that by the end of that, we're going to have this ability to kind of give you a nice menu where you can say, I can do that, and I'd like to take that. That's a one-shot deal. I'm going to try this for 3 weeks. So something for you to be working on during Lent. Speaking of Lent, you know what the first day of Lent is? Ash Wednesday. We are going to have 4 different ways for you to participate in Ash Wednesday. We're going to have a way for you to be able to come in the morning and already have ashes, and you can check in on a prayer meeting online and you can do your own ashes. We're going to have not 1, but 2, but 3. That's right. We're going to have 3 services that are live, not inside the building, but wait till you see how we do it. We're going to have 3 live services, which will involve two of which are short. I mean, I'm talking like come in 15, 20 minutes. One of them is going to be like if you're in the area and you're working, at home, and you take your break, you can come over to church, go through a brief 15-minute Ash Wednesday service, get your ashes, you'll be back at work, you'll have had some participation in Ash Wednesday. And we are having one of the services that's a little bit longer, no more than 40 minutes tops, where you also get communion. So those are things that are coming up. Also coming up is a week from this Sunday, the following Sunday is annual meeting. And you are definitely going to want to make sure that you have the ability to jump in on Zoom. We need as many people as possible. Why is this year so important? For a couple of reasons. One, there is by canon law and the bylaws, which are basic, these parts of annual meeting are preset as a business within Connecticut. We have to have an annual meeting, we have to have members, we have certain things we have to do. The perfunctory parts of annual meeting, we're going to move through rather hastily. We will be introducing this New Year's slate of vestry members, which are like the greatest group. Like you may want to volunteer to be voted for to get on vestry, just to be able to get together with this group of people. This is a fabulous group of super creative people, and I can't wait to see how the Lord's going to use us all. But you'll get to vote on that. We're going to go over the budget. Why is the budget important? Budget is important because, one, when you see what happened this year in the budget, you will be able to say, there is a God, and God blesses us, because it's an amazing story, which I would have never anticipated if you told me what was happening in 2021. Secondly, God speaks to Americans, I believe, very much money. And when you see the trends that we're talking about with our budget, it's basically, we're going to revisit what we talked about last year, which is we need to start thinking about how are we going to use God's resources from here out, now that everything has changed. The culture's changed, our church has changed, everything's changed. We need to make some fundamental changes, because if we follow the track just according to accounting, it's not exactly, well, it's one that should get our attention. That's the way I'm looking at it. So that's coming up for annual meeting. Now, cumulative stress. So some of the things that I studied back when I was a chaplain for the fire department had to do with trauma, which can come from an event, but it also can come from a series of events. And sometimes the term is used as cumulative trauma or cumulative stress. I have a friend of mine who I meet with on Thursdays. Just we get together, we pray, but he actually is a therapist. And we were talking about the effects of cumulative stress on the brain that affects behavior. So first of all, cumulative stress. Life is, Scott Peck, wrote the book, it's a great book, still is a great book, classic book called The Road Less Traveled. First line of The Road Less Traveled is like the money line of all. No other sentence, he just says, life is hard, right? So life is hard. Add to that all the issues of the COVID virus. You can't meet in person, you can't go to work, your kids are home, your kids are at school, they're back at home. How are you going to do your job? You lost your job. You're worried about your family members who live in states where people don't believe in COVID. So you got this kind of background. That kind of stress is a kind of version of depression / anxiety. Everybody has that. Okay. Add to that your set of responsibilities. How do I now carry out my life and the people and organizations I'm responsible for in the midst of COVID? There's another level of stress. You got all these other ways people are dealing with issues. People are reconfiguring businesses. Some people losing jobs. How do I handle these additional things? Add to that this is the most acrimonious and divisive our nation has ever been in politically in my lifetime. And I'm no spring chicken anymore. And I've been through a couple of eras where I would have thought, man, that was bad. We're at a place now where people are so reactive that if you're not agreeing with me, you must be my enemy. I mean, that's the way the dialogue has gotten. We've also been in an era where, in this last couple of years, where there's been an assault on truth. Nobody knows necessarily what's true, and some people take things that are not true and say them so many times that we're supposed to believe them. So it's created this very difficult atmosphere. So the political atmosphere and the assault on truth, the election on top of that, we're still dealing with the aftermath of the election. And then we had all of those things led to a specific moment where there was this brutally violent assault on the Capitol, which resulted in death. I mean, a terrible, awful moment of, particularly for, if the more of those videos you see, the worse it is. All the effect of that comes upon us, so that people were already telling me things like, I just found I started crying in the middle of the day, or I can't sleep, or I was kidding about that extra glass of wine, but now I find like I look forward to the second glass of wine as part of my evening ritual. So there's this cumulative stress. The effect of cumulative stress on human functioning is that anxiety, raised anxiety, prevents the brain from from all the cognitive functions. That doesn't mean this like, oh, I'm just not creative or I forget, but all of cognitive function is decreased with heightened anxiety. Many of us are feeling heightened anxiety. How does it come out? Somebody says something to you and you pop off with an angry outburst like you wouldn't do it normally. I said before the example, you start to feel like, man, I'm just going to start crying. Small things seem like big things. You can't think through issues. How can you be listening to the Lord and hearing from the Lord and being able to be directed by the Lord, but with all of those other voices that are going on in the external world, plus all that accumulative stress? What's the answer? So within our world now, psychologists, there are apps, things are pointing to that silence, the practice of silence, is a good thing. For Jesus, taking time for silent prayer was a necessary thing, not a good thing, but a necessary thing. And the first time you'll notice it is after the first really successful day of ministry that Jesus has. The disciples wake up early in the morning and see that people are already lining up for more of Jesus's healing ministry. And they go to get him and they can't find him because he is withdrawn, as it says, to a solitary place. Jesus has gone off by himself and is just being prayerfully present to God in silence. We need more and more in our lives the practice of silence. Now, during Lent, I'm going to make a little kind of like an app. We'll put it on YouTube where you can start to learn how to practice this. But this practice has become more necessary now just because of the cumulative stress, which has resulted in anxiety, which makes us reactive and affects our behavior. We want to be led by the Holy Spirit. So we need to take some time to allow our spirits and minds to be able to process in silence. How is it done? The idea when you take time in silence is not to have a revelation, not to see visions of angels. It's simply to practice being in the presence of God. You present to God, God present to you. You don't feel anything. You don't get a warm sensation. You don't have a wonderful sense. It's not about sensing. It's about being. The way I find helpful is to have a phrase or a word that you use simply, as I use that, called my get back to center word. For instance, you could take Psalm 23 and simply look for a word in there that really resonates with you. Like, when I was thinking about this, I thought, the Lord is my shepherd. I just thought, shepherd. And how wonderful it is that God is the one who's leading me. He's my shepherd. He's taking care of me. He's defending me. He's my shepherd. Sometimes I feel like I'm on my own. I need to be reminding my shepherds that word resonates with me. So here's what you would do. First of all, you set a timer. Everybody's got a phone. Your phones have timers. If you really want to be hip, you get a thing called Insight Timer, because it's got these great, they sound like meditation bowls. You can set timers that you don't need them, but you can just set a timer. How long should you set your timer for? First timers, or if you haven't done this for a while, I'm suggesting 7 minutes. 5 minutes is, for most of us, too short because we can't slow our minds down enough to be inwardly still. So, and much more than 7 minutes, we get anxious because I think I've been sitting here for such a long time. So 7 minutes of silence. So here's you set your timer. You have your words you're going to use. My word is shepherd, or the Lord is my shepherd. You get yourself into a place where there's the minimal distractions. You don't want your phone around. You don't want a screen. You don't want, you try to find no kids, which means you might have to get up really early or a time when they're at school, but you find a place. I used to do it in my car. At my old job, I used to take a walk. There was a church, a huge Catholic church in Holyoke. It was open. I think it must have had a seating for like 800. It was always open. I'd go in a little corner in there. I could sit silently right during my work day. So you got your timer, you got your space, you got your word. You say a prayer to the Lord. I'm dedicating this time to being in your presence, Lord. Help me to be present to you. Guard me from distractions. I usually start with the Lord's Prayer, and then I sit straight up. If you're sitting back like this, and you try to be silent, I guarantee you, I'll be asleep in like 2 minutes. That's all I need. So you want to be sitting up straight, feet on the floor, hands down, just breathing easily to start with. And you start your timer. You start saying to yourself, the Lord is my shepherd. The Lord is my shepherd. It's a repeated phrase. As soon as you quiet down, most of you will have other thoughts come up, like reminders. Did you make sure you got that thing done? Don't you have an appointment in 35 minutes? All these thoughts will come. Feelings will come. For the time being, in the simplest way, you just like imagine that you're standing in a stream. As they come up, you let them pass. Don't try to push them out of the way. The more you focus on them, the stronger they seem to get. So let them pass. Don't expect this to be perfect. If you haven't done this for a while, for me, it's like when I start running again. If I haven't run for a while, when I go out there and I go, okay, here we go, nothing feels right. You know, it feels like clunky, and my breath is bad, and my knees hurt and everything. So that's kind of what it's like to start with. But it's 7 minutes, and every time that your mind fades off, you simply return to the Lord. Simply return to the Lord. At the end of the 7 minutes, say the Lord's Prayer. Do not expect suddenly like you're totally revitalized. Don't expect that you're going to feel some great sense of God's presence necessarily. Like some big thing. Simply be. It's simply be. I do sometimes feel that I can tell the difference when I've been silent, when I'm not. I'm able to listen to people better. I'm able to process my own thoughts better. I'm not as reactive. And have a greater sense of God's presence in the times where I'm not doing the silent prayer. So I'm going to toss that out there as a practice for you to give a try. And I'll be making some videos on that. And we'll start with 7 minutes and work our way up to 10 so that you can do 20 minutes of silence. And when you do that, I got to tell you, it makes a tremendous difference, particularly in processing all the things that you've been having to process that are just sitting there on top of you with all the stuff going on in our environment. It allows you to process. Jesus thought it was necessary, and I'm not even in the ballpark of being able to process the way he did, so it can be very helpful for you. All right. I think that's it for now. So thanks so much. We'll see you on Sunday. Pray for us as we work on our stuff tomorrow morning. And God bless you. And we'll talk to you soon.